Hi again everyone, Dwayne here, and thank you for joining me once again for another piano lesson on tunes over twiddly bits. This time I'm going to show you how to use the 9 chord positions that we learned the last time to actually play Jesus Loves Me, This I Know with the melody incorporated. So let's just jump straight in. A quick review of the 9 chord positions, 3 positions for each chord. So our C triad, you'll recall, was C, E, G when in root position. The first inversion is when the C is played at the top, so then the chord position is E, G, C. That was first inversion. The second inversion is when from this position the E is moved and played at the top, so then the chord reads G, C, E. And that is our second inversion of the C triad. Those are the 3 positions for the C triad. We now move to F, which you will recall in root position is F, A, C. When the F is moved from its current position and played at the top, leaving everything else the same, the chord then reads A, C, F, and that is your first inversion of the F triad. And then we invert again, moving the bottom note, which now is A, playing it an octave higher, leaving the other notes the same. It now reads C, F, A, which is the second inversion of the F triad. Moving on to G now. The G triad, you'll recall, was G.BD in root position. Moving the G from its current position, playing it an octave higher, leaving of course all the other notes where they are. It now reads B, D, G, and that is your first inversion of the G triad. And then once again, moving the current bottom note, which is B, playing it an octave higher while leaving everything else the same, results in the chord now being spelled D, G, B. And that is the second inversion of the G triad. So those are our 9 chord positions. All that remains for us to do now is to remind ourselves of our melody line, which we had said a few lessons back starts on G. Our starting note is G. So here we go. So here we go. Before we actually start trying to select the right chords, we have to bear a couple of things in mind. One, the objective is to keep your melody line at the top. So it must be the note, always at every stage it must be the note to the extreme right. There should be no note above your melody note, meaning further right than your melody note. Secondly, it's vitally important for us to consider whether there are any common notes between any 2 of the 3 chords that we're using. So let us see. Let us look at the C triad and see if it has any notes in common with the F triad. The C triad is C, E, G. The F triad is F, A, C. So as you can see, both chords, both the C chord and the F chord, have a C. So C is the common note between the C triad and the F triad. Let us now see if there is a common note between the C triad and the G triad. The C triad again is C, E, G, and of course the G triad is G, B, D. So obviously G is the common note as between the C triad and the G triad. All that remains now is for us to consider whether there are any common notes between the F triad and the G triad. Now if we look at the F triad, F, A, C, it's clear there are no common notes because the G triad is spelled G, B, D. So now that I'm pressing down the notes of the F triad, you can see that the notes that I need for the G triad are the ones that I skipped to play the F triad. So I've played starting on F every other note. I've skipped out the G, I've skipped out the B. Those are 2 of the notes we need for the G triad. And of course, the next one after the last note we play for F is D. So there are no common notes. I can play the F triad and overlay the G triad without needing any of the same notes I've already played for the F triad. So here it is. That is the G triad. And this is the F triad. No common notes. So that will be important for us to be able to use the common note almost as a pivot if we're moving from one chord to another chord that has a note in common with the chord we're coming from. So if, for instance, we are on a C chord and we need to move to an F chord, we already know that one of the notes that we're playing in the F chord is common to the C chord and vice versa. So that cuts down on the extent to which we have to move. The same would apply if we're moving from a C chord to a G chord or a G chord to a C chord. But if we're moving from an F chord to a G chord, we will have to move every single note because there are no common notes. So here we go. Recall that our melody note, our starting note, is G. Now let us play it one octave lower because that is where we are going to start. So our melody note is G and we want this to be our top note. So we need to complete the chord that we need to add notes to the left of it. Now if we consider of the 3 triads that we are using, only 2 of them have a G. The F triad does not have a G in it. It's spelled FAC. So that rules out the F triad as the chord that we need for our first melody note. So it's either some position of the C chord or some position of the G chord. Whichever we choose, the position needs to have G as its top note. Now if we look at the C triad, which position will have G as the top note? I think that is quite straightforward. Clearly it would be the C root position because that is spelled C-E-G, G as the top note. So it could either be this position that we need or some type of G chord, one that would have G as the top note. Which one would? If you recall, the G triad is G.BD, so the D is a top note in root position. To get to first inversion, we move the G from where it is at the bottom and place it at the top. So a first inversion of the G triad is what has G as the top note. So we've now narrowed it down to 2 options as the chord for our first melody note, which is G. It can either be a C root position or a G first inversion. So which of these 2 does it sound to you would be the appropriate choice? For our first note, our melody is going to be, would it be this C root position or G first inversion? I would like to think that just by sound alone you would realize that the appropriate choice is C root position, and that is indeed the case. So our first chord, keeping our melody note at the top as required, is a C major root position chord. So our melody note then goes down to E. So we have to ask ourselves, of the 3 chords that we're using, how many of them have an E in it? That's pretty easy. The F chord is FAC, so there's no E. The G chord is G.BD, there's no E. So it has to be a C chord, which clearly therefore means it has to be an inversion of the C chord. So we started in root position with our melody note being G at the top. Our melody then goes down to E, which means E needs to be at the top. How do we play a C triad by having E at the top? What we would have to do is invert, move the G from the top, place it an octave below so that then the E becomes the top note. So our next position is a second inversion of the C triad. So here we go. We go root position C, second inversion C, and then the melody note, the next melody note is E again. So it's the exact same chord position. Then our melody note goes down to D. So we need a triad that has D as the top note. If you think about it, the only triad that has a D in it is the G triad, and it's spelled G.BD, which clearly therefore means what we need to keep D as the top note is a root position of the G triad, which is our next position. So from C, second inversion, we close up to a G root position, which has the D at the top. So our melody is now this. That is C second inversion twice, then we close up to a G root position. D as our top note, then the melody goes back to E, which means we open back up to a C second inversion. And then the melody goes back up to G, so we now invert the C triad back up to C root position. And the G again, so it's the same chord position. So here we go. To play that entire first passage, it is so we've been using just inversions of the C triad, and in one instance we closed up to a G root position. So here we go again. C root position, C second inversion, C second inversion, G root position, C second inversion, C root position, C root position. Moving on, our melody note then goes up to A. Then up to C, back down to A again, then G. So here we go. From here at the end of the last passage, from C root position, since our melody note is A, and the only chord that we are using that has an A in it is F, then clearly it has to be some form of F chord or a position of the F triad. Which position of the F triad has A at the top? If we look at it from root position to first inversion to second inversion, this is what we need. An F second inversion, which has the A at the top. So from a C root position, we keep the common note pressed, because remember, the C triad and the F triad have the common note C. So we can keep the C depressed and just open up. The top note G becomes A, and the middle note E becomes F, and we have our F second inversion. So it goes like this. Same position again, then our melody goes up to C, which therefore means we just move the C from the bottom here, invert it, bring it up here, and so we have an F root position. And then the melody goes back down to A, which means the C comes back down, leaving A to be the top note. So this entire passage so far is F. Here we go again. For, the, by, b, tells, same position again. And then the melody goes down to G, which means we close back up to a C root position. So here we go again. We can put it all together now, starting from the beginning. Moving on. And then as we carry on, you will find that the next line sounds remarkably similar to the very first line of the song. So here we go again. That bit is identical. Then the melody goes back to A, then G, then down to C, up to E, D, C. So here we go. Now, as we move on, the melody note is A, so we need an F second inversion again. We open up, close back up, because the melody goes down to G. So we're back now to C root position. Then the melody goes from G down to C. So we want, what we want is a chord position that has C as the top note. We have two options. It can either be F root position, or it can be C first inversion. So it could be that, or it could be, it's now a matter of choice whether you wish to use F root position or C first inversion. I prefer to use C first inversion, so it would be, then the melody goes up to E, so this now is C second inversion. Then the melody goes down to D, so we close up to G root position. Then the melody goes down to C. This, I would use C first inversion. You will notice that F root position does not fit here because it seems incomplete. So you would have to resolve it to the stable sound of C first inversion. So here we go. I will do the entire verse again. After 3. 1, 2, 3. Now for the chorus, it starts on G. And with the G at the top, this is remarkably similar to what we've done already. So we can just cut straight to the chase and say our first chord for the chorus is C, root position. Then we invert down because the melody goes down to E. So we're looking at, again, a C second inversion. Then back to root position. The melody then goes up to A, so we open up to F second inversion. Then invert the melody, because the melody goes up to C, we bring the C from down here, put it at the top, we get an F root position. So it is. Then the melody goes back to G. So it is C root position, C second inversion, C first inversion, back to C second inversion, then the melody note goes down to D, so we close up to G root position. Then it almost repeats itself. Back to C, the melody is G, so back to C root position, C second inversion, back to C root position, melody goes up to A, so we open up to F second inversion. Melody goes up to C, so we carry the C up and complete an F root position. Then the melody goes down to A, so we bring the C back down and go back to F second inversion. Melody then goes down to G, so we close up to C root position. Pardon me. Then the melody goes all the way down to C, which means we need a C first inversion. Then the melody goes up to E, so we bring the E back up and we have a C second inversion. Melody goes down to D, so we close up to G root position, and then our melody for the final note of the song goes down to C, so this is C first inversion, and there we have our entire song. So I'll just go through this again for you quickly and end this lesson. Next time we meet, I will show you how to add your left hand. Here we go. There we have our entire song with the melody incorporated. I hope this has been helpful. Once again, if it has been, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. And I will see you next time. Thanks for joining, and bye-bye.